celluloid, and we're turning it into music and podcast for you.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of We Came From Celluloid. I am Nicky P, here as always with my brother from another mother, Mr. Brian Pritchard. How are we doing there, Mr. Drummer Man?
Wonderful. I'm wonderful. My son texted me this morning that a new I've talked to two people in Cincinnati already today. That's an odd. Now that I say that out loud, I watched the newest episode of Daredevil with my son, and then we just recorded a future proof podcast with Greg Snyder, who was also out in Cincinnati. So I've just got that. I don't know. That direct
Cincinnati
vibe.
vibe?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's a Cincy kind of day.
How's the morning been otherwise? I'm still a little bit of buzz with the tracks that you sent me yesterday. Feeling pretty high on that. How's that working out for you?
You know, I need to still listen on a couple other systems, but no, I feel great about them. I'm eager to have those pushed out into the world. And yeah, we haven't released new Puma material since what was it, 2017 or 18 that volume 1 came out?
I think it's 2017.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. You know, there's the drum tracks. I remember even at the time that we released that, I was like, whoa, it's crazy that I recorded and released this Puma EP while Dome Album 3 was still unfinished, right? Because we'd gone in and I tracked drums at Annie Up, which is Seifert's old studio downtown, 15 years ago now, or you know what I mean? That I think I did the Dome Album 3 drum tracking sessions. I did the Dome Album 4 drum tracking sessions about a month before Levante moved to Europe. Okay, you didn't even know him at the time, right? That's, you know what I mean. But like Levante moved to Romania. It was going to be a permanent move. It ended up being shorter term, but I wanted to make sure that I was like recording everything that we had like up until that point written together. You know what I mean? I was like, I want to capture all of this stuff that we'd done. There's an album that I wrote with that Joe Petrich during a different time that Levante was in Spain. Back in the day, the Dome days, he also bailed on us to like bike around Spain for like a year. And teach English.
You want to know the truth? Me and Levante had a conversation about all of this yesterday.
Yeah, and
He was apologizing to me that, like, you know, the bass pair stuff. It's always like, yeah, that's kind of on me. I keep leaving the country, and I'm trained Brian to like have other people around.
well, it led to Cul-de-Sac Jones. That to me was actually a positive thing, but it is another unfinished album. There's some really great live recordings. In fact, we should watch it together sometime. It's 45 minutes long or whatever. Literally, I point to this Cul-de-Sac Jones performance. That was the name of the band we had, where Joe Petrich was playing bass and doing like heavier vocals with Noel as like they were co-vocalists. And the songs were, if Dome songs were like 5-6 minutes long and maybe had a lot of movements in them, this was writing stuff that was like quick and punchy, you know, and like 3-minute songs. It's like basically what made me capable of ultimately writing a track like Beetlejuice, because prior to that, it was like more of that, you know, Metallica kind of songwriting foundation, Dream Theater, right? Where it's like, yeah, you might have 10 movements in a song or something like that, you know? And yeah, like Cul-de-Sac Jones, you know, really was an interesting chapter as far as even feeling this freedom of like not having to write stuff for the Dome project, where I felt like it had to like live up to a certain standard. You know what I mean? It was interesting for the first time to like be writing songs where I was like, oh, I don't care. You know, I don't care about this song. And how like not giving a shit could make for like great material, and a big light bulb moment there, you know. But yeah. A lot of unfinished shit, Nick, including Puma Thurman.
Well, I mean, Puma Thurman. I was actually talking to a friend of mine today. I sent him the demos to kind of get a hey, what are your thoughts, man? How's everything sound on this? And one of the things was we were talking about is how far behind on like recording all of our actual material we are. He's like, oh yeah, man, we're in the same boat. Like, apparently, I think it's the part of the dad band thing. It's like eventually when you have other shit you need to worry about, it's tough to crank out like recordings at the rate that like you actually write the material. Certainly at the rate Brian writes material. It's like as we're like wrapping up songs now that have like I don't like it's interesting that it's like I'm excited to like finally get like vocals on tracks that are like from our first EP that like showcase like the band that we actually are. Like I'm excited about that stuff. Meanwhile, we've got entire other EPs of material like recorded, not out yet. Other recorders, other like full EPs of material that haven't even been recorded. Like they're still way in the back. And it's like just this to me, it always feels like this endless stream of content kind of at this point. It's like, oh my god, when are we gonna get all these cool songs like Beetlejuice we're waiting on. I want to do, redo vocals for this past Saturday we did a session covering Ray Ray's Full Service, Brown Coat Man, and what do you call it there? Yeah, New Soul. I was actually sitting down with the tracking from New Soul just last night, um, kind of going over the old guitar tones and like bumping in newer tones that matched like the way we sound now. And it's like, oh my god, like I can't wait to like send the tracks off to Seifert so I can hear what he does to him because like in particular, New Soul's always been one that's been it's been a chink in my craw or whatever you'd call it because
Only because I fucking love it, and it's the weakest recording, and it's a great, like one of the, to me, the best songs.
well, more than that is for people listening to the podcast that don't understand the history of that EP. That whole EP existed once, and then my daughter poured a soda onto my laptop, and we lost everything but the drum tracks. And so we recorded the entire thing twice. And the version of that song that existed prior to like the sodaing it just everything was fresh in it. And when we came back and re-recorded it, it just didn't have the same freshness to it. But like listening to you know what we have now, the tracks I have now kind of like put together on top of like what the new vocals sound like. I'm getting excited like I was about it that first time through that we recorded it because it's like, ooh, you're starting to sound like something really special again. And like to me, that song is a really special song. It's well crafted song. And so to kind of finally have things where like I'm excited to show them off. I'm not like, yeah, it's okay. It's all right. But it's not like what I know this can be. So it's a nice place to be in, frankly.
Yeah, yeah. I was just thinking about like how that song was built around the discovery of the tablature, I suppose, explanation of those opening chords, right? is that you're going 5, 6, 7, 8 from the top down, right? If you're holding a guitar and you know use the high E string, put your finger on the 5th fret, and then string below it 6th, then string below that 7th, then 8th, and then you slide all of that down to 1, 2, 3, 4. I just remember like I don't really have classical training at all in the guitar, and so the guitar sometimes continues to be this process of like discovery. You know what I mean? Where these happy accidents take place, and yeah, New Soul is one of those like where like. And you hear it in the beginning. It's like it's just the excitement of like that pattern. They're like, like it reminds me of the score for Neverending Story is like really foundational to me. That Vangelis score, and I don't just mean the like rousing theme. I'm thinking of specifically when he's like on like this night moon desert landscape with those horses that shoot lasers out of their eyes. You know what I mean? If you're familiar enough with the Neverending Story to know the sequence that I speak of, there's some kind of ethereal stuff that happens out there, and every once in a while, your simple ass electric guitar can somehow get into this twinkly ethereal kind of space. Still, it's kind of a magical instrument after all. I was watching Jack White on SNL the other day just be like a fucking rock star, you know what I mean? Like playing rock and roll, you know, and just being like, man, I like the fucking guitar. It's cool. The guitar is really cool.
Well, he did that documentary a couple years back with like a bunch of the other like big rock gods, as you'd put it, called "It Might Get Loud."
Sure, sure.
Then, if do you remember that one? Did you ever watch it?
Yes, yes.
I just remember him taking like a piece of 2x4 and like hammering a pickup into it, and then running some strings over it, and like start playing slide off of a 2x4. And like I'll be the first to say I'm not a big fan of Jack White. I've kind of always thought he was a little overrated, but you know, there's something just cool about the idea of just taking it all the way back to its roots and being able to like make that into something. You know, it definitely shows off the versatility of the idea of a guitar. You know, I've had some friends here in Cleveland that make you know, that do like cigar box guitars and stuff like that. They build their own. It's always impressive to like it's easy, and yet there's so much to the process in some ways it makes it impossibly complicated.
Well, even I'm trying to think of which materials I've encountered because every once in a while I'm trying to think of something where like a piece of yarn or whatever, like something that you could pull taut enough to like get that like ding, 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 like you know what I'm saying? Like it's fun because like it exists in the world. You know what I mean? The acoustic guitar obviously has been refined. The instrument has been refined, but the earliest versions of it, right, it's sort of just like yeah, that you can pull things tight enough that they produce a sound. I mean, I know I feel like we've talked about it, definitely talked about it on other episodes, that whole resonant frequency concept of just, you know, sounds existing in the world already, and the idea of that like vibration effect creating noise, and you know, all of that is it's magic. It's magic. It's communication as well.
It's magic in ways I don't think people think about. 'Cause, like, I don't know. Well, my favorite Christmas movie of all time is Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. And I'm not sure like how familiar you are with jug bands, but like you ever seen like a jug band bass, like how it works?
Not necessarily. I mean,
So so jug band bass is it's one string, but you have your like a be like a broom handle on the top of a like what do you call it, like a big wash basin, and then literally one string. and like you get the tone of the string, the note, by how much pressure you put on the string using the handle of the broom. It's like you get your notes by like how tight you pull the string. It's an iconic like instrument. Like anyone who's ever heard jug band like knows the sound of it. But it's like, once again, it's taking that concept of like the stringed instrument back to its roots. One of my favorite instruments is the what do you call it, the banjo. And the banjo is cool because it's like somebody said, "Hey, let's take a guitar and build it out of a drum." And you got a drum head with a guitar strung over the top of it, and that's like the sound of a banjo. There's different ways that they make them, but that's the idea behind it. It's you have that percussive sound because they literally built it out of a drum. And I don't know, it's endlessly fascinating to me, like just the way stringed instruments are. Like that's in the world of guitar, man. Like before you go into stuff like classical, a lot of our classical instruments, like those stringed instruments, double bass, cello, viola, violin, whatnot, and like think about just the different ways that you play like those instruments, being like the bowed versus like plucked and all that stuff. You get the shamisen and all that, koto and all that out of Japan. It's I don't know, it's just wild.
Yeah, you a Morphine guy, Mark Sandman? Had that 2-string bass?
I literally have a bass that like I sanded, I took all my frets off, sanded down my neck, put some flat wounds on it that I keep around the house because I watched a video on Mark Sandman in like 2008 and was like, oh, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Because it was like, dude completely reinvented the instrument in some ways. And what's always funny to me is that like, in that same vein, who his roommate was when
No.
he was doing all that stuff? It was Chris from the President's of the United States of America, the guy who
A
notoriously
similarly
was
stripped
playing.
down sound. Fuck. Whoa. Okay.
Well, who was similarly pulling strings off of guitars, screwing around
Yep.
with necks, and like, yeah, it's like these two dudes just happened to like say, let's just try things. Let's run with it. I think like in both their cases, like you get a more traditional sound, obviously, out of the Presidents. Like you play their songs on normal instruments if you want, but what you end up getting out of Morphine, like he was dead set on just reinventing music. Like we don't need a guitar player. Let's bring in a sax player and have him play bass, and I'll play guitar on this 2-string bass. Oh, like yeah. The only thing traditional about that group was that they have a drummer.
Dude, there's times where Morphine like manages to elevate to like greatest band in the world status for me. You know what I mean? Like they captured something really, really magical with that little trio. That Buke Gase group that I sent out to you about Hudson. I saw them open for Tomahawk in Chicago in probably 2014, I'd say, memory serves. I walked into the venue with Noel, and they were the opening act, and I'd never heard them, and I was just captivated, man. They are a two-piece that again builds their own instruments. So they have these bizarre little like modified handmade instruments. And so the one guy's playing an like a bass slash guitar, which is the Gase, where it's like alternating like bass string, guitar string, bass string, guitar string, bass string. Like it's a weird instrument that he built. And then he's got a bass drum, like a kick drum at his foot, right? So he plays this bass guitar hybrid and plays a kick drum, and then she sings and has this amazing strong voice, has like a tambourine foot that's kind of like a snare drum-esque thing. At a certain point they start involving like triggers and other stuff into their performance. But she's
I was gonna say definitely. what I listened to of the band sounded different than that. I was getting a very electronic feel with what I listened to the other day.
Their final album, Scholars, that they put out in like 2021, definitely they were incorporating. It's worth watching some live stuff of theirs in particular, like and they put out a documentary that was really good during the pandemic. They like booked a venue and like filmed a documentary, like a live concert in an empty venue, and put that out. And that's a pretty cool performance. But anyway, and the documentary shows a lot of them in the lab, like how they came up with their instruments and stuff. I think you'd find it really, really enjoyable. But that show that they announced that it's their final concert, that they're both named Aaron, and the female Aaron is pregnant and starting a family. And I read in her blog that she's also like a volunteer firefighter. I don't know what all is going on in her life that she is stepping away from music. And they announced that these are their final concerts. They're doing one show sold out quickly in Brooklyn and became two. And then the actual final show ever is supposed to be this Saturday in Hudson, New York. And it's April 25th. And so I got a couple tickets because the tickets were cheap. And I was like, fuck, I want to go to that. But then I've been sweating it as far as like it's an 8-hour drive. Gas is expensive. Hotels are expensive. We've got the tour coming up. So, yeah, I know I texted you about it, but I'm going to ask you about it live on the air.
So geographically, it is not in a place that I know anyone. Honestly, like I've got like well, I've got my little brother lives like a couple hours outside of it. So like, we could stand like I think maybe what like 2 hours of drive after the show and like crash there like might be doable.
I do 2 hours of drive all the time. It's just a question of how actually like plausible is it. I say all the time, like tours skip Cleveland, right? We're doing Detroit, Pittsburgh, Columbus, and driving home afterwards to Cleveland, Avon Lake. Um, I do that regularly. So yes, the notion of a couple hours after the show is certainly achievable. Um, Not great necessarily to do like 8 hours to the venue, watch a show, and then do. But if it's 2 hours towards home, I guess that's not the end of the world. So I don't know. We could talk more about it, but I like to keep the possibility open. And until the date has passed, I don't want to totally rule it out. I do have tickets.
What is that? What's interesting to me is that like it's where they're actually playing is so close to New York City already. It's like
Oh, but they live
they're
in Hudson,
playing.
so it's like their
Is
hometown
that
show.
what you?
Final show.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say it's like they're playing a jazz club like 2 hours outside of New York City. So it's like they
Yeah.
must be very regionally located.
Yeah. Yeah, that one maybe is like as the true final show. It's like a week after the Brooklyn shows, and it's like, yeah, I guess because that's where they've made their homes, maybe more of a some semi friends and family kind of thing. But I reached out to him because I was like, "Hey, I don't think I'm gonna make it," and I saw that the show is sold out, and they posted on their Instagram like, with my blessing, like my they took a screenshot of my message, and they're like, "We'll offer up the tickets if anybody wants them." Because I even said I was like, I don't need the money back." So much as like if there's somebody who got locked out and really wants to go, you know what I mean? Like then I'd at least feel like, okay, I did something nice for somebody. That's happened to me before, for different events where I've been kind of overzealous and had FOMO around like, well, if I want to go later and I can't, like, I don't know why I thought the Buke Gase. Well, it did fucking sell out. You know what I mean? But yeah, 8 hours away, so close to our tour. I can't justify spending that money. You know what I mean? But But 3 cheers to homemade instruments. That's the spirit of that, my friend.
Yeah, for real. It is getting a little surreal in that we are getting so close to tour time. Things actually are coming together quite nicely. The schedule is actually filling up good. I was working on the poster last night, or the t-shirts, whatever, the combination of that. So it was pretty cool to like see, like, oh, hey, here's all of the cities in a little list on the back of the shirt. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, we're at a point of what? Having like 6 dates? That to me starts feeling like a tour t-shirt I can be fucking proud of, right? No, I'm counting that Lakewood show, dude. Yes. That's the tour kickoff that's not even a real show. Yeah. It counts. It counts. I'll tell you what. The rule is if you're there on vocals and I'm there, ideally Noel should be there too, man. That really was the foundation. Like, it's weird that we won't have Noel, but we will have Levy, and then James is just the wild card. But it'll be fun. And we might as well get used to it. If we're going to be more of a touring act, I know this isn't going to be the last time. Like, I could absolutely see a scenario where our like road act involves,
Well, and there's a certain degree of I've watched the you know Eagles of Death Metal enough times live that like Jesse never has the same band there ever. Like the only guy that I think I'm used to seeing more than once is Dave Catching, and like he's not even all there anymore. So I don't know. We'll see. It's definitely. I know it's when you get used to like, thinking of the band differently as like an art collective more than like just like a band. Um, it makes more sense. Kind of like in the like Guar, who shows up on stage and who shows up on stage. And that one it's easier because they're all playing characters. But
Well, no, it's funny because like there's actually so weird way to put it. Like Noel plays a more exciting lead guitar than I'm capable of doing. Like he's a more exciting stage presence and lead guitar player. Um, but I wrote those songs, like a lot of those songs, right? And so the way that I'm going to play that stuff and the way that Connor and I are going to function as a guitar duo is actually kind of fun to me and cool. Like the way New Soul's going to sound that night is going to be like really tight with the harmonies. You know what I mean? Like you're going to hear more like tight harmonized guitar riffs than usual and less solos. And like the drum parts are going to be totally different.
well, even bringing back up like listening to New Soul last night, like man, I forgot like some of the stuff that was kind of buried in that track. Like there's like I think 3 different guitar parts that like I played on that song that are in the mix. That like nothing I did was rhythm and like texture kind of stuff. It's like I think one lead line I do during the maybe during like the chorus section that like builds up something there, but it was interesting going and listening to what's actually there. Um it's always an experience going through old stuff and hearing like because when we record we always do you know record it, we don't use it, rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That's always been my method, and it's kind of like let's look through everything and strip it down to see what like part like for me like what I like to send off more tracks than anyone would ever know what to do with to the producer or engineer and say, hey, I want you to carve a song out of this. Tell me what you hear, what makes the song a song by your ears, and just see what they come back with. It's like so much of the joy in songcraft for me. Like sometimes it comes back a little different than you imagine it, and there's always that. But most of the time you get something back that's even better than you expected.
Well, it's what I imagine. Again, there's part of that relationship between the director and the editor, right? Of going like, I'm going to capture these moments, you know what I mean, on set, day of, and I'm looking to you, editor, right? And that's where some of those great relationships, right? Like Martin Scorsese and Thelma Schoonmaker. You know what I'm saying? It's like that he keeps using her because she knows how to assemble his material in a way that he likes. You know what I mean? And of course she's not using everything that he shot. It's knowing how to take that stuff and yeah, sculpting is a great analogy. You know what I mean? See the statue inside the granite block, as it were, or whatever. So yeah.
Well, folks, it has been another fine episode. Please stay tuned. We got more, obviously, more release information and more tour information as things go on. We're absolutely going to be having on some of the bands to promote the shows out in the Midwest. Be talking to some bands. We're going to be talking to some bands in Cleveland just for the hell of talking to bands in Cleveland to see how things are going and moving forward in our own little scene here. So lots of new stuff coming up. Stay tuned. Take it easy.
From celluloid, and we're turning it into music and podcast for you.